everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to the 800th video on the channel. The 800th video on the channel, I'll say it in English one of these times, is this week's episode of Mystical Munchies featuring the official Catan Cookbook. After the Tavern Pretzel Bites and Beer Cheese were a bit of a misfire last week, we're on to the side this week in 7-grain bread. First up, let's tell the story. Break bread with your fellow Catanians, literally. You'll need about 3 hours for it to be ready to serve, including rise and bake times, and you'll likely want some butter, jellies, jams, or other favorite toppings to really hit the spot. It uses 7-grain cereal and wheat to load you up with fiber, vitamin E, B vitamins, and phosphorus, all a part of a super healthy and happy body. It's a great side for your coastal chowder, caravan vegetarian chili, or any other rich soups. We'll find out what we think of all that soon enough. The ingredients are waiting for us at the table, so let's move in that direction. In order to put this recipe together, we'll need 1.5 cups of warm water, 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit divided, 1¼ teaspoons of active dry yeast, an egg that's been whisked, and I'll be dividing that, 2 tablespoons melted butter, I'll melt that when I'm ready for it, teaspoon of sea salt, 1/4 cup of honey or maple syrup, I'm using honey, 2 cups of both whole wheat and all-purpose flours, 2/3 of a cup of 7-grain cereal, and oil for coating. In this case, I'm using veggie oil. With that, let's move into the kitchen and start putting this recipe together. We've got a small bowl and shot. Wow. My English is not a thing today, apparently. So, now we're going to take a 1/4 cup of the... Let me just see where it wants the water. Okay. So we're going to combine a 1/4 cup of the warm water. I'm going to take the bowl over to the sink, not the other way around. And I want warm water, not scalding. There's the 1/4 cup of water, along with the yeast, which I'm going to have to open fresh here. Fresh from the grocery store this morning. And I grabbed the 1/4 teaspoon, so we want 5 of these because that's what 1¼ teaspoons is. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A small little tidbit, back in my younger days, I used to always be the bread master of the family. But the difference here, the difference then was I had a bread machine to help me along. This time I don't, because I don't make bread that often. So we'll combine that. So we'll see how this goes in the oven with no bread machine to help me along. All right. Okay, that looks like we're good, so now we'll let that sit for 5 minutes. I'll set a kitchen timer. And while that's sitting, we're not going to sit idle. I'm going to bring another bowl in shot. So I wanted to start on the next part of the recipe while I was letting the yeast mixture settle, but it turns out I need the yeast mixture for the next part of the recipe anyway, so we're going to work on getting that together while the yeast finishes its time sitting idle. So now we've got a separate bowl and shot. We'll combine the yeast mixture once we're ready for it with 2 tablespoons of the whisked egg, which I whisked off camera as part of preparation. This is going to be a little annoying. Let me grab a 1 tablespoon instead of the 2 I was trying to use. Okay. This will probably work a lot better than trying to use the 2 tablespoons in one shot. Maybe not. We'll do like 3 scoops of it because it feels like I'm getting about 2/3 of a tablespoon out of each one. So yeah, I think that'll work. It's a little weird, but it'll do. So there's my 2 tablespoons of the egg. We want the melted butter, which I've got my melted butter right here that's been melted, and a spatula to scrape more of that off. Okay. The other cup of the warm water, so I'm going to grab another cup. I'm going to grab a cup, measuring cup out here, which this one right here. I'll bring the bowl to the water, not the other way around. All right. That's my cup of water getting poured in. All right. Then we want the salt and the honey So we've got our sea salt, and it turns out I'm going to need the microwave it yet again. So actually this time we are going to wait for... at the rate it's going, it'll probably take me that long. I was going to say to get the sea salt open, but actually no, I just got inside the sea salt. So never mind that plan. So here's our teaspoon of the sea salt. I'm probably going to need the microwave because I'm expecting I'll need to loosen up the honey. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I can't do that while I've got the kitchen timer running. But fortunately, the kitchen timer it's probably fine here. I'm just going to go ahead and kill that. We'll put that in for about. Come on. Oh, wait. Wait, what? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do with it. Let's just put it in for add 30. That should be fine. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to loosen the honey up so it pours a lot more easily than it currently will. So I need a 1/4 cup of the honey. We'll grab a wooden spoon out so I can start combining all of this together. There we are. Okay. That seems like it's working. That seems like it's moving a lot more. All right, 1/4 cup of honey. Oh boy, easy does it. Okay, right almost near the top of the meniscus. I probably used the spatula that I wanted to. Well, since I had butter in it, the butter's part of this step anyway. I'll use the same spatula I used for the butter to get more of the honey out. Okay, that should work fine. Whoa! And I've got stuff falling on the floor on me. Not a huge surprise. That tends to happen when you're working in the kitchen. Alright, we can put the honey back up. And now we'll combine all of this. Okay. It's probably about as good as that's going to get. So now we want to sift in both flours. So we're going to use the 2 cups of all-purpose flour, which is going to be right toward the top. I was just checking the measuring cup. Ooh. Let's do this over the sink. Whoa, easy does it. That's way too much. Okay, that's a lot better. Okay. And then we'll get the 2 cups of the whole wheat flour as well. The canister of the all-purpose flour can go back up. And we'll grab the whole wheat flour. And now we need the yeast mixture as well. I'll put that in at the top. And once again, I'm going to pour this out over the sink using the same measuring cup. Okay. That can go in. And we'll grab the yeast. And now we're going to stir to combine all of it. Ooh, whoa! Also a thing that has potential to happen when you're working with a lot of flour. Grab a spatula so I can try to scrape down the sides of the bowl and get everything incorporated. Feels like I want something, it feels like I want a little more liquid, but it doesn't look like I do actually. Anyway, the whole wheat flour can go back up. Actually, I realized I need the all-purpose flour back down for a second because I'm going to need to flour a work surface here. Excuse me. A little gaseous today. Okay, trying to make sure everything gets as incorporated as possible in here. But I don't like what I'm seeing so far. Because I don't like how this isn't holding together very well. But I think that's probably the best we're going to do there. So now we're going to bring the bowl out of shot for a second. As you can see here, I've lightly floured a work surface. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the dough out onto this. Which is not... Oh boy. This isn't holding together nearly as well as I would like, but I'm hoping the next step is going to help me work on that. So now that we've turned the dough out, now we're going to knead the dough for about 8 hours until it's, not 8 hours, 8 minutes until it's smooth and elastic. We can add a sprinkle of flour, but we don't want to add too much or over-knead the dough. So I'm going to set a kitchen timer for 8 minutes. And then we'll knead the dough, seeing if we can also get it to hold in the process. I'm not too worried about this being sticky. I'm mostly trying to get it so it holds together. Which it, well, I was going to say mostly seems to be, but let me come over on this side, see if I get any better results from over here. A little better, given that I'm a little bit, it feels like I'm a little bit closer to the dough over here than I was on the other side of the camera. Yes, I know this is the boring part of Mystical Munchies, but as I've talked about before in the past, I tend to do a lot, when something's important to the recipe, like I think the kneading is going to be, I tend to do it in real time, since it's less likely that I'll screw the recipe up. Notice I didn't say I won't screw the recipe up. It just makes it less likely if we do it in real time. So I guess while we're working on the dough here, I can tell you guys a little bit more about what I've got coming up on the channel. So later today sometime, we'll be having at least one block in the 1972 NFL season, as the Miami Dolphins will be at home at the Orange Bowl, hosting the New York Jets. Week 11 I have to go get the schedule for, actually week 11 I'd have to go get the schedule for, but I think I'm doing a little bit of flexing there, because I wanted to put the Pittsburgh Steelers on the board, just to make sure the tiebreaker, just to make sure I've got my board tiebreaker under control there. And then week 12 is going to feature what's likely to be a very high-stakes matchup in the NFC Central Division, as the Detroit Lions will be taking on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, which is once again still the not-so-frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Playoff implications coming into today. The Dolphins actually will be able to clinch the division with a win and a Colts loss. The Packers and the Raiders, the Oakland and the AFC West, will both be in the playoffs with a victory. As I've talked about before, playoffs on the channel are going to be the top 6 teams, the division champions and the 3 best wild cards, with the 2 best division champions getting buys into the divisional playoff round. But that's on the football front. On the rest of the games, we'll be playing the Legacy of Cthulhu on Sunday. I'm expecting that to be a stream, probably similar time to when I started the stream on Call of Cthulhu last week. So that'll be about a 7:30, 8 o'clock start time I'm expecting. And then Wednesday we'll be jumping up in our American Interceptor as we defend America from the America bombers in Defending America, intercepting the America bombers by Compass Games. Coming back to business here, the dough seems to mostly be holding together. So, and it's feeling, and I'm not worried about it being sticky. Let me see if I can flip this over a little bit. and maybe knead the underneath without it being a complete mess. Yes, I can. I was worried about turning the dough over and just having it break completely apart on me, but it seems like it's holding together just fine. Which, as I mentioned, I was very nervous about. I think once this timer goes off, since I'm looking at about an 8-minute timer here, I'm going to take a small break before we go to the next step. I'd want to be right here with it, but like I said, I could use a small break because I'm actually getting pretty warm in here. Got about a minute, little over a minute and a half left on this initial knead, but oh wow, I'm getting so sweaty in here. Turn it over. Oh boy. Started breaking apart on me a little bit in there. Jeez. Okay, wow. All right, I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. Oy vey. Getting very sweaty there, too. And before we go to the next step in the recipe, I am going to take a small break, mostly so I can cool off a little bit. Now that I feel like I'm no longer on the verge of overheating, we can go to the next step of the recipe. That's where we need the 7-grain cereal, and I've chosen original grape nuts for that. So we'll get that open, hopefully without too much absurdity here. There we go. Nice and easy, and we want 2/3 of a cup of this. And we're going to knead that into the dough until it's just integrated. Hopefully without sending too much of it flying. How do I want to do this? Alright, we'll see if we can flatten. Oh boy. Yeah, I think pretty much no matter how I do this. Well, I think if I pour it in a little bit at a time, that's probably how I'm going to have the best results with this. Or if I sprinkle it on a little bit at a time. I definitely didn't want to pour it all on at once because that's just an easy way to send it all flying on me. I want to try to turn this over and put some on the underside as well, but I don't want to send the grape nuts flying if I can avoid it. All right, let's see if I can turn this over. That is exactly what I was afraid of, though. Seems like it's holding okay. And just like I was afraid of, I've got grape nuts spilling all over the place. And I'm starting to get toasty again. So I think we'll just go ahead, pour the rest of these on. And we'll probably just have to live with the results here. I think that's probably about as incorporated as it's going to get, even though it's still kind of on the sprinkle, even though it's still on the rolling around side, but I think we'll have to live with that. So, plus I'm starting to get warm again. Okay. So now we're going to move over to the countertop. We're going to move over to the counter with a different shot in mind. Now we're going to take the inside of a clean bowl and coat it with oil. The way I'm going to do that is I've got my veggie oil right here. This is the same way that I would spread the oil around when I'm re-seasoning a cast iron pan after using it. I'm going to take a bit of the oil, pour it into the bowl. Then I'm going to take a paper towel and just spread the oil around. And just coat it that way. that can hit the bin. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move back over to the countertop with the dough on it, because I always want to bring the bowl to what I'm putting in rather than the other way around. So now we're going to take the dough, put it in the bowl. There we are. We'll add all of this in as well, since that's technically supposed to be part of it. Actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to move the camera back just a little bit. And we'll add it like so. And now we're going to cover it loosely with a damp, clean towel. I'm going to wash my hands for this. And I've got a towel that I checked on this morning just to make sure it would fit, and it will. All right. Make sure that gets all wet. Give it a nice wring out. Ooh, a little toasty. All right. So now we're going to cover it loosely with the damp towel, just like so. Yep, perfect. And then we want to leave that in a somewhat warm location, free from breezes, which I would say the kitchen today qualifies. We're going to let that rise for an hour or until it's doubled in size. So I'm going to set a kitchen timer here for about an hour. And we'll come back to that. By the magic of editing, it's going to seem like it's a moment, but it's going to be about an hour later when we come back to this. Now we're going to start to prepare the dough to go in the oven. So we've got a 9x5 loaf pan in shot here that I've already cleaned. Now we're going to coat it in oil the same way we coated the bowl to let the dough rise. I'm going to pour a little bit of oil in. Then I'm going to use a paper towel to spread the oil around. Okay. So we're all good there. Now we're going to put the dough in there, and we'll put the dough in first. Yeah, get in there. Okay. We'll move that over to the dishwater so it can start to soak. I'll wipe my hands. And we'll put all of this in. Now I'm going to get a piece of plastic wrap. Okay. Yep, that looks like it'll fit. We'll oil this up very lightly. That might even be a little too much looking at it, but we can probably make it work. All right, now we're going to cover the bread pan with the oiled piece of plastic wrap, and we'll let that rise for another 45 minutes, or until it's doubled in size. So we'll come back to that in about 45 minutes. Unfortunately, the bread's going to be a little bit uneven, but I don't think there's much I can do about that. It kind of went in uneven, so I'll just have to live with that. Anyway, that plastic wrap can come off. I'm working on preheating the oven to 350 right now, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of the egg. I'm going to do this over at the sink, but I'm going to take the rest of the egg, mix a tablespoon of water into that. I'm going to mix a tablespoon of water in. And then I'm going to mix the water into the egg so I can create an egg wash. Okay. So while the oven's chirping and preheating, I'm going to grab a brush and brush the top of the dough with the egg wash. Yeah, that's gonna make a mess, I'm sure of it. Let's see if I can brush more of that down into the pan. Just waiting. Right now I'm just waiting for the oven to come to temperature. All right, I think that's as brushed as the egg wash is going to get, or as the bread is going to get with the egg wash. I'll go ahead and wash up these few dishes while I'm waiting for the oven to come to temperature, because the next step requires the oven being at temperature. And this lets me kill two birds with one stone. It gets the last of the dishes for now clean, but it also lets me kill some time while I wait for the oven to come up to temperature. And that's everything in the dishwater for the time being, so I can drain that off. Do a little bit of cleanup around the counters. Hopefully this won't make too much of a mess in the oven. Assuming the bread didn't totally flop, and it will. Oh, why did I? I just threw out the rag. That should be headed for the laundry, not for the garbage. Silly me. Whoops. Yeah, I've had my fair share of derpy moments on the channel, believe me. So right now we're just, as mentioned, we're just waiting for the oven to come to temperature. Okay, oven, you can come to temperature anytime now. Now that I'm all caught up in here. Shouldn't take too much longer, I don't think, for the oven to come to temperature. So actually what we're going to do here is, unless it comes to temperature in about the next 5 seconds, which I didn't think so, I'm going to turn the camera off and we'll come back when the oven does come up to temperature. I swear the oven must have had performance anxiety or something, because as soon as I turn the camera off, beep, 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 the oven comes up to temperature. So I moved the camera out of the way just enough. So now we're going to put the bread in the oven. And we're going to let that bake for about 45 minutes. Yes, or until the crust is golden brown and it sounds hollow when tapped. So I'm going to set a kitchen timer for 45 minutes and we'll come back when the bread comes out of the oven. Pardon the printing you might be hearing in the background. I've got something for one of my solo RPGs that I'm printing off. So now we're going to take so we had it in there and for 45 minutes, or until the crust is golden brown and loaf sounds hollow when tapped, which it does there. So now we're going to take this over to a wire rack, which I've got my cookie sheet / wire rack and shot. See if we can turn that over like so. Oop. Easy does it. That's not going to turn the way I want it to. There we go. Okay. There we got that. So we'll give that a little bit of time to cool. Probably get that out of the way. And I'll give that probably about half an hour to cool. And then we'll we'll cut this up, I'll plate a piece, and then I'll meet you guys over at my desk for the taste test. I've got a piece of the bread here topped up with some strawberry jam. As I was slicing it, exactly what I was afraid was going to happen happened. It started to fall apart on me as I was slicing it. It was good for a few pieces, but then it just came right apart on me. But I managed to get one of the pieces here that held together, topped with some strawberry jam for the taste test. So we're going to give this a taste and see what I think of it. So the consistency was a bit of an issue, as you can probably guess, and I blame the prep for that. But let's give this a taste and see what I think. It's actually not bad. Admittedly, I don't have bread much anymore, but it's definitely nice for a change of pace. The consistency, like I said, the consistency was maybe a little bit of an issue, and I've never done bread in the oven before, so that was a challenge. But all in all, I'd say this one turned out, and that's another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week, we'll be making the entree, Harbor Master's Fish and Chips. Busy coming up on the channel. Later this afternoon, we're going to have Week 10 in the 1972 NFL season in Momentum Football, as the New York Jets we'll be at the Orange Bowl in Miami to take on the Dolphins. Tomorrow we're playing Legacy of Cthulhu, and Wednesday we're jumping back up in our American Interceptor as we go after the America Bombers in Defending America, Intercepting the America Bombers by Compass Games. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.